Hello and welcome to our class on Parsha Vayechi, on the week of Parsha Vayechi. Would you look at that? Uh, for some reason, my camera is not working, so you don't get to see my face, but that's all right. At least you get to see my shared screen, which is the important thing. Taam Dagan on Parsha Vayechi. There's quite a bit to say on this week's Parsha, and we're going to learn some lessons about the benefits of wine, milk, the importance of olive oil, significance of the blessing for grain, and more. So, chapter 48, verse 16, where it says, the famous blessing that many of us sometimes sing to our children, or say when we say Kriyat Shema Lamita, Hamalach Hagol Oti Mikol Ra, Yivarech et Hanearim, the angel that protected me from all bad. Yivarech et Hanearim should bless these youths, these lads, as this is Yaakov giving
These what?
youths. Yes, these two youths. So this is Yaakov giving a blessing to his grandsons Ephraim and Menashe, and he says, "V'ikara v'hem shemi," and they should have my name on them, v'shem avatai, and the name of our fathers of my fathers, Avraham and Yitzchak. V'yidgu larov. A lot of people say v'yigdu larov. That's a tongue twister. It's v'yidgu from the word dag, fish. V'yidgu larov. They should grow they should have as many as fish. B'kerev haaretz, in the midst of the land. All right, so what's he wishing for them? So according to the Gemara in Bracha 20a, he's actually giving them a bracha that they should be great like fish. Why great like fish? Because these creatures, not being easily viewed, are not affected by ayin hara. Now, this is something that you often hear, especially if you're a rabbi. People will ask the question, "Hey, how do I keep away ayin hara from myself?" And the answer is very simple: don't make yourself very visible. Don't make yourself don't show off. Don't don't be ostentatious, right? So that's the way to really keep away the ayin hara. All these other fake things, smoke, or steel or whatever they're doing, iron incantations. All of that doesn't really work. That's all avodah zara, mamash. The only thing that really works is to live a life of tzniut, of modesty, men and women. By the way, we'll learn more about that, I think, in the coming weeks, with Shovavim coming up next week. Okay, chapter 49, verse 6. Whew, what happened? I don't know. All right, never mind. Bisdom. So again, this is a continuation. The Yaakov now blesses his sons, all 12 of them, and they all get unique brachot. And we're going to see a lot of these brachot. This should not surprise you. A lot of these brachot have to do with economics and food and grain and such. So let's see how that works. Chapter 49, verse 6. Bizdom al tavo nafshi, bikalam al techad kvodi, ki ba'apam hargu ish, birtzonam ikru shor. This is his blessing, quote unquote blessing. It sounds more like a curse, but it's his blessing for um, Shimon and Levi, that basically they have shown themselves to be able to be rather, I don't want to say impetuous, but they can really cause some damage when they try to, and they destroy the entire town of Shechem in order to avenge the behavior, their sister's rape by Shechem. And so what here he says he doesn't want to be like them, and they were just like oxen. They're like ikru shor. With their will they became they were like oxen. And the Ramban explains or tells us a very interesting thing here that large animals can sometimes be used as metaphors for important people. Now, this is not something that, again, not directly related to food, although we eat large animals. But the idea here being that we don't often you would think what I want to say is like this. You would think that speaking like this about people is disrespectful. I mean, obviously humans are higher than animals in many ways. So it's important to know that here's the Torah using animals as a metaphor for these important people. We continue. It says chapter 49, verse 11. We're going to see more of that here as well. Isru lagefen iro, uvelasorka bni atono, kibes biyayin levusho, uvadam anavim suto. So he tied his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He washes his garment in wine, and his vesture in the blood of grapes. So there's a prophecy that Eretz Yisrael will gush wine like a spring. It's when Mashiach comes. This is Rashi. The wine here is what Eretz Yisrael is going to be filled with. Now, you might think, hey, I don't drink wine. What do I care that there's going to be all this wine all over the place? Well, wine can also be a metaphor for the intoxicating power of Torah, says Rashi, is in his second shot there. That the wine is, and that it has the same effect. In other words, wine can make somebody drunk. So can Torah do that? There's this tendency. A lot of people don't appreciate this. A lot of people think learning Torah is a burden. It's boring. All these topics. But when somebody gets into Torah, when somebody who's really powering through and gets to the point where they're enjoying Torah, it's almost like a drug. It takes over, and you lose all track of time, and it's all you're thinking about. All you want to do all day is to learn Torah. When we get to that level, that's the level that Rashi's writing about when he says this. Um, Aside from that, perhaps this verse is a source for the idea that wine is considered a facilitator for healthy blood, right? We for vascular health, and the rabbis would drink wine after bloodletting surgery, along with other food, to get back into their former health. In the Gemara, it talks about that in the Gemara in Shabbat 129a to b. So that's a perhaps. That's an original idea there. Chapter 49, verse 12, next verse. It says Chachlile einayim miyayin uleven shinayim mechalav. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. So when Mashiach comes, there will be a great amount of food available to nourish the world. The whole world, by the way, not just Eretz Yisrael. Sforno writes, the whole world is going to benefit from Mashiach's coming. Wine and milk represent wealth, says Rashi. Alternatively, wine represents violence and milk represents calm. So there's going to be that conflict, that contrast, says the Malbim. Wine colors the eye of the drunkard in the sense that his overindulgence in drink has an obvious negative effect on his life. You could see it. You could see it on their faces, right? The people who are drunkards, says the Ramban. On the other hand, the sages read this verse as a hint to the beneficial effects of wine on the elderly, right? Older people, when they drink wine, it's good for them. The prophet Yeshayahu compares milk to Torah in that both nourish us, one physically and the other spiritually. The sages, this is in the Gemara in Ketubot 111b. We're going to get that Gemara again in just a moment. Further say that it is better to whiten someone's teeth by making them smile than by feeding them. One second. Let's fix that. How do we whiten the teeth of another person? What does that mean? That it's better to whiten someone's teeth? So the book or Hatzafon explains that it's by smiling in a way that causes them to smile back in response. So making somebody smile by smiling, you're whitening their teeth. So it's better than even feeding them. That's a very important lesson, especially with regard to food. We often think about feeding people. Feeding people, that's a nice thing to do. You know what's even better? It's making somebody happy. Right? Sometimes food is not the answer. Believe it or not. There's a funny video that was done long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more, of a Kirov professional running after somebody with a bucket of cholent. Come eat some cholent. Come eat some cholent. This will make you from. That's not the way to inspire people to Judaism necessarily. Yes, it's true. If you feed them, they will come. Very often, when shuls have events, people show up. But that's not necessarily the way to really make them happy, make them smile, make them comfortable. That's the way to really have a lasting effect. Next, chapter 49, verses 13 and 14, the blessing of Zvulun. Zvulun lechof yamim yishkon, v'hu lechof aniyot, v'yarchato al tzidon. So it says Zvulun is going to dwell at the shore of the sea, and he shall be a shore for ships, and his flank shall be upon Zidon. Zidon, this place. As opposed to Yisachar, next one. Chamor Garim, he's going to be a large boned donkey. Rovetz bein amish patayim. He's going to couch beneath the sheepfolds. So, first of all, we know there's this idea in Chazal of the Zvulun Yisachar relationship. One brother earns, or one group, or one family earns the money, and with that money supports the Torah learning of the other. Right? Somebody who wants to learn Torah can't really be. I mean, it's important to have another occupation, be able to do other things. But the truth is, if somebody wants to totally dedicate their life to Torah and nothing else, so what ends up happening is they can't be doing anything else. And if they do, then their Torah is somewhat affected, for better or for worse. The blessing here is Zvulun is blessed before Yisachar because the physical needs of Torah scholars are essential to Torah study. As it says, Im ein kemach ein Torah. If there is no flour, there is no Torah. So there has to first be that kemach, that flour, and then that's why Zvulun is blessed first, and then you have Yisachar being blessed for in that relationship. It's worth mentioning also, the Chazal also tell us, Ein Torah, Ein Kemach. So if that doesn't happen, if there is no such relationship, and nobody's learning Torah, so there's not going to be success in the community either. You find very often, you'll just look and you'll see communities all over the world where there's kohalim. Very often the supporters become more wealthy from their support of Torah, and that just increases everything. And there's more Torah, and there's more support, and there's more success, and it's like this sort of loop wherein that's what basically supports the Jewish community. Chapter 49, verse 20. Yeah. Me Asher Shmeina Lachmo, for Asher his bread will be fat. Doesn't sound good so far. V'hu yitin me'adanei melech, and he will yield royal dainties. All right, what does that mean? So first of all, the foods that grow best on Asher's land are luxury items. They're not the basics. But Asher creates wealth through them to allow his people to afford the best of essential, nourishing foods. So yes, they don't grow the essentials, the cucumbers, the blueberries, whatever, right? They instead they grow oil, right, which is not essential, let's call it. But but with the oil, they sell that, and then they're able to buy for their people the essentials that they need. The food from that region is rich either because a lot of oil grows there or due to Asher's own ingenuity and efforts. There's different opinions about why exactly, whether it's Rashi or Achaim, different ideas about why these things are successfully grown there. The sages tell a story in which Asher's land easily supplies over 100,000 gallons of oil, of olive oil. There's this huge amount of olive oil that was available in Asher's land at certain points. Now, can be made into foods appropriate for a king's table, says the Radak. And rabbinically, these kinds of foods that are ru'il hitkabed, or fit to bring honor, have a halachic status where they have to involve a Jew in the cooking process to be kosher, by at least contributing to the heat. A food of high enough quality to be served to nobility cannot be nullified, even in 1,000. So there's no bittul when it comes to a food that's ru'il hitkabed. Um, in the book Movable Feasts, the author writes, quote, in ancient Rome, olive oil was among the most important of the imports, an extraordinary nutritious food product containing edible fats and high levels of vitamins A and E. Olive oil was used by the Romans to fry, bake, and roast their food. It was a key ingredient in bread as well as in salad dressings. By night, olive oil lamps provided lighting in domestic households, temples, baths, and palaces. At sporting events, athletes smeared themselves with oil before competing, and olive oil was the base for most perfumes and cosmetics. Each Roman citizen probably consumed up to 13 gallons of the liquid a year. By comparison, by the way, Italians today use 4.5 gallons a year. And larger homes and taverns stored hundreds of gallons in a dolium, a huge jar that was dug into the ground to provide a cooler storage vessel. That was the quote from that book. The sages in the Gemara in Yevamot 63a may be discussing the ships that transported such important imports from France and Spain throughout the corners of the Roman Empire. The prophet Daniel considered making a decree prohibiting oil produced by non-Jews, but knew it would not be accepted. Since olive oil was needed on a regular basis, people had difficulty accepting this decree. So says the Meiri. Okay. Next blessing that has to do with food. Naphtali, Ayala Shlucha Hanotein Imre Shafer. He is a hind in Ayal, let loose. He gives goodly words. What are these goodly words? Say the commentary. Naphtali says thanks and blessings to Hashem over good crops. That's Onkelos and Rashi. The blessing for grain products is unique because these foods represent a partnership between Hashem, who creates the ingredients, and the people who produce the food from those ingredients. In other words, grain is not edible by itself. Well, maybe it's edible, but nobody wants to eat it. You have to cook it, you have to fry it, you have to bake it, you have to make something out of it. You make a donut out of the wheat, right? And then people want to eat it. For instance, it's not, and that's what makes it delicious. So there's a partnership going on. There's Hashem providing the wheat, and there's us using our knowledge and our technology and our know-how to make that wheat into something we like. Next verse is about Yosef, chapter 49, verse 22. Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale Ayin, Benot Tzada Ale Shur. Yosef it's just interesting how many famous books and Sfarim get their titles from this verse. Ali Shur, from my Rebbe's Rebbe Ravolbe, right? Ben Porat Yosef, the Ben Yishchai Halacha Sefer, right? Lots of interesting. Anyway, Yosef is a fruitful vine by a mountain or because of the eye, depending on how you translate Ali Ayin. Its branches run over the wall. Yosef merits to have a lot of land from which they can make sacrifices from foods available as far as their eyes can see. Why? Because Yosef ignored the desires of his eyes regarding Potiphar's wife's seductive attempts. That's the Gemara in Zvachim 118b says basically that's what Ale Ayin means. It's because of his eyes. Because he watched his eyes, his descendants benefit in this way of having so much land as far as their eyes can see. Um, okay, continuing with the blessings, says says Yaakov to his sons, Mekel avicha v'ezreka v'eit shakai v'varcheka birchot shemayim me'al birchot tehom rovetze tachat birchot shadayim v'racham. Even by the God of your father who shall help you, and by the Shechina who shall bless you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep and couches below, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. So there's a commentary, the Baal HaTurim, who says that what we're saying, breasts and the womb, we're not talking about the physical parts. It says the blessing of the bosom and the womb refers to heaven and earth, which work together to provide our food with the rain of the heavens and the fruit of the earth. Right? Again, a partnership is developed and provides the nourishment that we need, just like the nourishment of a mother, both before and after the birth of the baby. Very next verse, chapter 49, verse 26. Birchot avicha gavru al birchot horai ad ta'avat givot olam tiyena l'rosh Yosef l'kadkod nazir echav. The blessings of your father are mighty beyond the blessings of my progenitors to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Yosef and on the crown of the head of the prince among his brothers. So it happens to be that the rabbis have a play on words here, where in the Gemara in Shabbat 139a, where they say that from the time he was separated from his brothers, Yosef never drank wine. Right? So he did this because he would otherwise be apt to disclose secret information or not concentrate fully on prayers. And both of these are important things to keep in mind when we're thinking about the very powerful ability of wine to affect our minds. Right? We have plenty of opportunities to use our minds in concentration, in the thinking of ideas, and if we can't, if we get drunk, then then that affects both of those things. Says the Ben Yishchai, actually. So next, very end, basically, of part of the Parsha and of Sefer Bereshit, chapter 50, verse 14 and 15. After Yosef buries his father Yaakov, the brothers become concerned that maybe he's not going to act towards them the way he was before, or that he is already acting towards them differently, and maybe he's going to want to get revenge on them for the selling of Yosef all those many years ago. It says Yashav Yosef Mitzrayma Hu ve'achav. He came back to Egypt, he and his brothers. V'chol ha'olim ito, and everybody who went up with him. Likbor et aviv, to bury his father. Acharei kavro et aviv, after they're done burying his father, he's buried, and now they can go to Mitzrayim. Biru ache Yosef, and Yosef's brothers see Kimate Avihem, ever since the father died, V'yomru Lu Yistamenu Yosef. It might be that Yosef has changed and hates us. Shev Yashiv and Lanu, and he's going to get revenge at Kol Hara Asher Gamalnu Oto for all the bad that we did to him. Now, the commentaries explain, what does this have to do with food? You're wondering. Good question. So the commentaries explain, Rashi, that the brothers are nervous about Yosef's behavior toward them. What's his behavior different? Either he's treating them differently by not inviting them to eat with him, so there's the food, or they're concerned that Yosef is not acting differently towards them. So that's a different opinion, right? So maybe his continuing on as if nothing has changed is what's making them very nervous, according to this idea. So if this is like 3D chess. It's the way the Malbim explains this. That and it says that Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, says that when your enemy is hungry, feed him bread. Why? Because the most painful revenge is kindness, right? So there's a similar scene, I believe it was in Jane Eyre, if I'm not mistaken, where she wants to get back, or she's visiting this woman who tortured her whole life as a youth, and she's visiting her, and she's the lady tells her, "Why are you visiting me? You're trying to mock me? Like what's the mocking? The mocking is that sometimes being kind when the person knows that they deserve less from you, that might be the most painful kind of reward indeed." Most painful kind of revenge. So that's what they're afraid of, and that's especially his not treating them differently according to the Malbim. That's what precipitates this. All right, God willing, next week we'll continue with Taam Dagan. This has been Taam Dagan on Olive Sefer Bereshit. Baruch Hashem, and we're about 58 pages into the book, and we'll see how much more we can write for Sefer Shemot as we continue there in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful rest of your week.